Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Hannah. Be sure to click that subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up. So it's been a minute, I think, yeah, it's been a little while since I've filmed a sit down video. To be completely honest, I feel like I've done, I know I've done a bad job of being as consistent as I want to be on my YouTube channel. But I feel like I've figured out a schedule and sort of a way I can keep myself accountable while also being mindful of my work schedule and just how demanding my job has been recently. So for those of you that do not know, I work for Julie's Inc., which is a company based here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they have two businesses within the company, Julie's Boutique and Ivy and Leo. I would say I mostly do stuff for Ivy and Leo. So Ivy and Leo and Julie's Boutique are two stores. They cater to different, I would say, age groups. Ivy and Leo is more of the young, I would say, college age, high schooler kind of crowd, whereas Julie's Boutique is more geared towards like an older customer. But I really love what I do. I work as an e-commerce and social media director. So basically what that means is I oversee a lot that goes on with our website. So I would say recently I've helped to kind of give the website a facelift. E-commerce and the website is sort of one part of my job, and then the other part is of course social media. So you know, doing a lot of the Instagram, I oversee like all the Instagram stories, handling, you know, DMs with the customer, shooting content, creating flat lays, TikToks, Reels, all that kind of stuff. So really just trying to promote the merchandise as much as I can and make it just look really aesthetically pleasing and you know, well branded for Ivy and Leo. So yeah, that's kind of just a little bit as to what I've been doing. I also upload all of the product to the website, which takes a lot of time. I will say that's taken most of my time recently, just because we've gotten so much merchandise in, and obviously we want to get it all up on the website for customers to buy. So yeah, I mean, eventually I would love to grow in this position even more and take over more responsibility, but I've really been pleased with how much responsibility I've been given already so early on. I really feel like I have sort of that sense of ownership, and I will say, working for a small business, every single thing I do feels valuable, which is really nice. Whereas I feel like sometimes if you're working for like a large business, you kind of get lost in the numbers. So I really like feeling like I play such a key part in the business and within you know, this team. I guess other than that, honestly, I've still enjoyed living alone. I'm still in the process of furnishing and decorating my apartment, but I'm really pleased with the way that it looks as of now, and I kind of just have like a few final touches I want to add in before I feel like it's actually done. Yeah, I guess if you watched my last vlog, I went to Asheville, North Carolina with my boyfriend Connor. So Connor and I have been dating since July 4th, but we've only been officially in a relationship for a couple of months, so it's still new. I really have enjoyed having him in Charlotte, just because obviously moving here so quickly after I got my initial job was stressful to say the least, but he's been a really great support system for me, and he's introduced me to a lot of amazing people here, and I feel like I've really just met so many amazing friends already, and I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, that's just a little update and a little spiel about my life. But I did want to take the time to talk to you guys sort of about like the interview process and the process of finding a job in 2020 and in the middle of a global pandemic. I don't want this to be a video where I come across like I'm preaching or telling you guys what's right or what's wrong. I'm just really gonna be talking about what worked for me and offering advice where I can. I've had a couple of people reach out to me actually and ask how I got a job, you know, during COVID, and if I had any tips for finding a job and sort of like how I went about everything. So I felt like it was important for me to sit down and talk about how I got the job I have now, and talk about like the steps and sort of tips and tricks I figured out along the way. First things first, I will say it did not happen overnight. I started looking for jobs before COVID. I want to say back in like January, February. Seriously, I would say I started actually interviewing and looking for jobs at the end of February. So right before, you know, the first lockdown happened and right before COVID really took full effect at the beginning of March. I was seriously interviewing for 2 positions at the end of February. One was to be an assistant buyer for Dillard's in Tampa, Florida, and the other was to be a wholesale coordinator for Clergerie Paris in New York. I interviewed for both of those positions and was being considered seriously for both of them, but I will say I was moving along further in the process with Clergerie to the point to where we actually discussed me having the position seriously, and I never officially accepted an offer because unfortunately by the time we had actually started like a formal discussion to where it felt like this could become a reality, COVID hit and it completely changed everything. Obviously, throughout the summer, I stayed in contact with my connection at Clergerie. If you guys don't know, I interned for Clergerie Paris last year in New York City. I did a whole video on that and talked about, and I interned for them last summer as a wholesale coordinator. It was a great experience and I learned a lot, and luckily they actually reached out to me when they had an opening and wanted to consider me for a full-time position. So I had built a connection at Clergerie and definitely stayed in contact with them throughout the summer. I will say I was more aggressive in terms of my communication and really just staying on top of it and just verbalizing my interest in the job. In my mind, things had just kind of been like postponed for just like the foreseeable future, and now obviously this has been going on for quite some time and we don't really know when it is going to be ending. I want to say like probably towards the middle of July, I realized that me moving to New York in 2020 wasn't going to really be an option. And that was hard. Obviously, I was disappointed like a lot of people. I was very grateful to be in the position that I was in because I had the support financially of my family and I didn't necessarily rely on a job to pay rent. And I know a lot of people unfortunately lost their jobs and were in a way worse position. But nonetheless, it was difficult for me having graduated college and really just having 2 great opportunities and then kind of losing those opportunities completely and having to start over. I'm the kind of person though that faces confrontation head on. So this whole quarantine like really lit a fire under me and I revamped my resume, really spent most of my days on LinkedIn kind of just job searching and applying to as many jobs as I possibly could. And yeah, I will say like I got to the place that I'm in now because I didn't give up. And I know that's super cheesy, but it's true. And that is my biggest piece of advice, is that if you want to find a job, you have to be aggressive and you have to put yourself out there. Obviously, with everything that's going on in the world, finding a job right now is a lot harder compared to past years, but that's not to say it's impossible. But in order for you to get a job or even get an interview, you have to be aggressive. And that means that when you apply, you need to follow up. If you're just filling out an application on a website or on LinkedIn and not actually formally sending that application to a specific person, then find a contact number, find a contact email for that company and follow up after you apply and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I applied for this position, just wanted to follow up and confirm that you got my application. I look forward to talking to you about the position in the future. You can't just be passive. You can't just apply here and there and hope that you hear something back. You have to follow up, and you really have to go the extra mile now more so than ever. And you know, it's better to say that you did and that you tried rather than to say that you didn't, because you're always gonna wonder, what if I had, you know, followed up? Like, what if I had really made it clear that I was very much interested in the position? Because unless you make that connection, at the end of the day, you're just another number to them and you're just another application. So aside from what's on your resume and application itself, it's really important to be personable and to try and find some sort of way to connect with someone at that business. My next piece of advice, and this really helped me, LinkedIn is very much your friend. I never really used LinkedIn prior to looking for a full-time job. I had a lot of part-time jobs in college and I just never really felt the need to use it. I know it can be a little bit daunting to some people. I feel like before I started using it, I didn't really know how to use it. But one thing I really liked about LinkedIn that helped me a lot is that they have a feature where you can go on LinkedIn and set your profile to open to work, and you can sort of key in various job titles that you're interested in, and you'll get alerts whenever a job is posted that pertains to those titles or the kind of job that you're interested in. So for example, I set my profile to open to work, which meant that I was actively looking for a job. It was a way for recruiters and employers to see that I was actually looking for a full-time position. And then I said that I was looking for jobs that pertained to being an assistant buyer, an assistant merchandiser, a merchant, a product developer, honestly, anything related to fashion merchandising. I keyed those words in, set my profile to open to work, and every single day I would get tons and tons of emails. Obviously, I had to weed through a bunch of them because a lot of them didn't pertain to me or what I was specifically interested in. But at the same time, what I really liked about this feature is the fact that as soon as a job was posted, you immediately got an alert about it. So it was a very quick turnaround. It wasn't like you had to actively go on LinkedIn yourself and find a job that someone had posted about 4 days ago. As soon as someone posts about a job, you would get an email and you could apply right then and there. I do think it is really important to apply as early as possible. So as soon as you see a job that you're interested in, apply right then and there, because, you know, honestly, they're probably looking for an immediate hire. So it's very important that you kind of give them your information so that they can review it and seriously consider you as a candidate. Yeah, so that's my next piece of advice. Utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your friend. Social media in general is your friend, honestly, because LinkedIn aside, you can post to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't know, honestly anywhere that you're looking for a job. You can specify if you're looking for a job in a certain city. And you know, if you have connections on these social media platforms, you know, I think that's kind of the whole point of social media, is to build connections and to use those connections to your advantage. So you never know who is going to be willing to help you. You know, I think that there's kind of like a stigma when it comes to asking for help. I know that I'm a very independent person and I would love to do everything on my own, but in the midst of this pandemic, it really is a time for all of us to come together and to support one another. And so, you know, there really is no shame in reaching out to whoever you can possibly think of to ask for help or to ask for a letter of recommendation. My next piece of advice is to reevaluate your standards. And that's not to say that your dream job should no longer be your dream job, but the reality is you're probably not gonna get your dream job out of college, and you're also probably not gonna get your dream job in the middle of a global pandemic. The job that I have now, I love. Is it what I saw myself doing? No, but I'm still learning a lot from it, and I'm still getting to work in fashion. And at the end of the day, that's really all that I wanted. So I really had to reevaluate, you know, what my expectations were and really put those expectations in context to what's going on in the world. With that being said, I applied to a lot of positions that I probably wouldn't have applied to if we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic. But honestly, I think that getting experience now is better than not getting any experience at all. Okay, sorry, had to take a break for a minute to let my camera battery charge. So what I was saying before all of this is that with everything going on in the world, it is really important to adjust your expectations. For me, I have always really wanted to work in luxury fashion, but people's needs have changed drastically and people's spending habits. So a lot of people aren't going out and spending $400 on a handbag, for example. So I really had to think, okay, what is something that I have experience in? What is something that I would be good at that has something to do with fashion, but is also something that, you know, is very much pertinent to the current climate that we're in, or what's a job that is in high demand? And that's really how I thought of e-commerce, because if you think about it, a lot of people are shopping more online now, more so than ever. I mean, I personally have always liked shopping online, but because of capacity and just because of people's, you know, fear of the virus, not as many people are going out and shopping in stores anymore. So that kind of created the job that I have now. So think about what are the types of jobs that people are in need of. And so that really made me think, okay, I can't do what I initially wanted to do now, but what can I do that will make me feel valued as an employee, but it's something that I also can enjoy doing and something that I can learn a lot from. So, you know, with that being said, when I was applying to positions before I got this job, I really had to take a step back and really reevaluate my expectations. And, you know, I applied to a lot of jobs that I probably would have applied to a year ago, but we were in a completely different situation, you know, even 10 months ago. So I really had to kind of just think in terms of, you know, any opportunity I have is going to be a good enough opportunity given the circumstance, and I'm really just going to try and make the most out of every situation. My last piece of advice when it comes to actually interviewing for a position: sell yourself. Sell yourself 10 times harder than you would have sold yourself last year for a job. This goes to sort of my first piece of advice when it comes to being aggressive. You really just have to show up for that interview, dress 10 times better for the position, and just really, you know, be personable, but be honest, and talk about how you could use the experience that you've had to really make the most out of the job that you're interviewing for, and talk about what you specifically could bring to the table, but also what you specifically could bring to the table in the midst of this pandemic. So yeah, I know some of this might be really cliche, but it's honestly all true. These are just sort of things that I figured out along the way that worked for me. And like I said before, I'm really grateful to be in this position. And if you're someone who is looking for a job, just know that you'll get there eventually. I know it is easier said than done, and I don't want to come across like I'm preaching, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you, and I hope you enjoyed it. So be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys again soon.